Together in Ministry started several years ago through the Lilly Foundation and through our former executive minister, Kate Harvey.
The Lilly Endowment issued an RFP, a request for proposals, that would create something that would help make clergy stronger. Ministerial leaders tend to go it alone, that Lone Ranger syndrome we call it. And so Together in Ministry was born so that we would have the opportunity to start a new culture of collegial covenant groups.
One of the groups that Lilly Endowment funded was the American Baptist Ministers Council. Following their concern about isolation in ministry, we created the Together in Ministry program.
Keeping clergy folk together in ministry. Not just together as a group, which is part of it, but actually keeping them whole, keeping them balanced, keeping them well, keeping them together in ministry.
For me to get a sense of objectivity and my own collegial support, I need to seek other colleagues from other churches who are doing the same kind of ministry that I might be doing.
We need the support of other people who know what we're going through.
I don't think that it is healthy to do ministry alone. I don't think it's healthy for two reasons. One, no one person is that smart. And two, if you believe you can do it alone, then your ego needs to be kept in check.
Ministers need this kind of support. They need this kind of collegiality beyond the Lone Ranger mentality.
It's kind of vital, so I remember that I'm not really on my own.
So Together in Ministry has become the lifeblood for us. What it's done is it's bringing people together, which is where we had our weakness.
The Together in Ministry groups put people in places where they can be understood and can be heard, and they can be honest and confidential, and they can get the kind of input that they need.
They're solving problems together. They're dealing with issues together. They're learning over time from one another to preach better, to teach better, to care for folk better, to deal with conflict better.
When there's trust and confidence, and I dare say love, enough in the group that you know the hard things they're saying to you are for your benefit, and you love and trust enough to receive them.
Having people around us who push us, who love us enough to push us, is one of the great gifts of colleagues.
In new ways, ministerial leaders say, I now have colleagues who will pray for me. I now have colleagues that I trust, colleagues with whom I can consult. I have colleagues that I know are with me in difficult times as well as in good times. I'm not doing this alone.
During a period of intense conflict in our congregation, I was feeling very isolated, very alone, and wondering why I was doing this work. And I went away for a week with my TIM group to do preaching planning, and they gave me a blessing. They reaffirmed my ordination by gathering around me on the beach and blessing me, and they signed a certificate and they gave it to me. It's framed in my office.
The groups are there to foster holy friendships.
You have community, you have accountability partners, you have prayer partners. Frankly, you have people to play with.
Just let your hair down, be able to be relaxed, be able to have confidentiality with each other.
In a group setting, something can happen that couldn't happen in any other way.
My personal experience of a TIM group was being new to the area and being held together in the early nervous days of a new pastorate. Literally being held together by people saying, here's an idea for a sermon, here's an idea for a Sunday school class.
What great reassurance when someone says, you know, that happened to me. And this is how I was able to find the redeeming quality out of that situation. And you're more committed to do ministry.
I really do believe that one of the reasons I've been able to stay in ministry at the same church for the length of time I have, 24 years, is my involvement in my Together in Ministry group.
I can tell you right now, I would not be a pastor today if it was not for my TIM group.
Within that community, they discover that they become better pastors, better ministerial leaders, and they become personally healthier.
The denominational structures that have supported clergy are changing of necessity.
We face a changing landscape, and the more ideas that can come to the table, the more a pastor can pick and choose what will work in her context.
It allows us as leaders to hear ourselves into speech and to be present in a way that helps us to be more present to the calling that God has called us to.
I'm delighted that the evolution of these Together in Ministry groups has made it possible for executive ministers to feel that there's a role to play, but you don't have to take the total role.
It has the capacity, if you form it right, to bring very diverse ministerial leaders together and enrich their lives.
The strong tendency is your churches get better, they get healthier because the pastor is healthier.
What comes together for Together in Ministry is so generative. It will change not only the individual, but the churches and the communities we touch.
I'm grateful that we have this history now of Together in Ministry, and my earnest desire is that this program continues and it expands and becomes a part of the remaking of the American Baptist Church's ministry for Jesus Christ.
To continue the process, we need to continue the funding so we can start new groups to bring them together so they can have the same resources that we have.
The Lilly Endowment got us off to a great start, and now we're at a place where we need to move into a new phase. We need to re-envision how we continue this, and we need everybody's help in keeping that going.
I think there's a way of reading the biblical text is saying that's what God is after all.
I have seen pastors strengthened and ministry transformed through participation in Together in Ministry groups. That's why I want to add my voice and the voice of MMBB to the voices of the many others who are seeking to raise funds to endow this very significant ministry.
I encourage you to continue to enable this part of our life to grow and to expand by your support of the campaign to continue these Together in Ministry groups. They make a big difference in the life of our pastors and of the church. Thank you.